So I want to continue discussing Dr. Samuel Johnson in Preface to Shakespeare. Um, if we try to simplify his criticism, we will not be doing justice to it, because Dr. Johnson has not given a list of Shakespeare's faults and Shakespeare's excellent points or his positive points. He has not given a list as such. The very same point works as a positive point, and the very same point comes as a defect. थोड़ा सा कॉम्प्लेक्स है. Dr. Samuel Johnson, as a critic of Shakespeare and as a critic in general, is very sophisticated, very layered, very intricate, very detailed in his analysis. So he says that the very same thing which is a positive point is a negative point also. On one hand, he says that Shakespeare is true to nature. Shakespeare is true to human nature. Shakespeare is true to human circumstances. Shakespeare understood human life like nobody else did. He is the greatest writer because he understood human life so very well. So he mixes sad affairs with laughter. तो यही बुराई भी है और यही अच्छाई भी है कि वो मिक्स करते हैं. अरे क्यों मिक्स? वाई आर यू मिक्सिंग सीरियस थॉट विद लाफ्टर? So he says, why are you doing that? But at the same time, this is what life is. Life is not one rasa. Life is made up of all rasas, all flavors, all tastes, bitter, sweet, pungent, all tastes. So this point works as a positive point as well as a negative point. He says, यहीं से वो argument आगे लेके जाते हैं, and he says that Shakespeare is very natural in his comedy. Comedy comes naturally to Shakespeare. कॉमेडी लिखने में उनको कोई एफर्ट नहीं लगता था. He created comic scenes effortlessly. Instinct by instinct. He wrote comedy by instinct. And in tragedy, he made efforts. उनका जो एफर्ट है वो दिखता है. He was working very hard writing tragedies of incident, action, skill. He was showing his skill. He was practicing his skill in tragedy. ऐसा डॉक्टर जॉनसन का कहना है. Then he says that Shakespeare mixed genres. So this is his good point also, his bad point also. At the same time, unities. Shakespeare followed unities of time, place and action when he wanted to follow them. And he did not follow unities when he did not want to follow them. मतलब हैमलेट में उन्होंने ऐसी यूनिटीज़ को ऐसे उठा के रख दिया है कि अरे कहा होगा, एरिस्टोटल ने तो कहा होगा, हम तो नहीं मानेंगे. एक इंसान के साथ, एक लड़के के साथ इतना ख़राब हो रहा है तो वो अभी यूनिटीज़ कहाँ से वो देखेगा. सो शेक्सपियर डिड नॉट फॉलो यूनिटीज़ एट ऑल and created Hamlet, the best piece in English literature. So Dr. Johnson, for Dr. Johnson, this is a plus point as well as is negative. जैसे मैंने आपको कहा, बहुत clear cut lines यहाँ पर नहीं. Dr. Johnson is very understanding, very deep, very profound in his analysis of Shakespeare. Very cool, very dispassionate. He objectively analyzes Shakespeare. As an editor, as an author, as somebody who was editing Shakespeare, he did not tinker, he did not change, he did not play with the original words. Dr. Johnson believed that language has a tendency to change. भाषा का स्वभाव है बदलना। जो शब्द आज हैं कल पुराने हो जाएंगे। अगर सारे शब्दों को हम नए शब्दों से रिप्लेस कर देंगे तो सारा फ्लेवर ही खत्म हो जाएगा। The depth of a writer comes from his original words. आप एफर्ट कीजिए, जाइए और समझिए। He did not want to play with the Shakespearean text at all. He did not want to disturb and change Shakespearean words at all. So he followed Shakespearean text religiously. He did not change them. He changed them only when absolutely necessary. तो ये चीज़ थी उनकी। Collating. Dr. Johnson believed in collating. As an editor, as a critic, he believed in collecting data and collecting information and then deriving his conclusions. मतलब conjecture, guessing, guesswork नहीं करना है। राइटर के साथ में, इतने बड़े राइटर के साथ में जिसको हम द ग्रेटेस्ट राइटर कह रहे हैं, या कोई भी राइटर के साथ में, कंजेक्चर ऑट टू बी द लास्ट पाथ, ऐसा उनका कहना था। ही हैड अ वेरी क्लियर कट पाथ। डॉक्टर जॉनसन का दिमाग एकदम क्लियर था। ही न्यू व्हाट ही इज डूइंग एंड ही फॉलोड हिज एक्शन प्लान completely. केयरलेस प्रिंटिंग से परेशान थे वो। ही डिड नॉट वॉन्ट चीप एडिशंस एट ऑल। और ये हम लोगों के सीखने की बात है कि कोई भी आगरा का, रामपुर का, यहाँ का, वहाँ का पब्लिकेशन हम ना लें। वी शुड टेक गुड पब्लिकेशंस, good Indian publications, good foreign publications. So he was called a Verorium editor, the first Verorium editor, and he took help of all previous editors. He understood the diversity of Shakespeare. कि वो सच्चाई बताता था निर्भीक होके, बिना डरे। तो उसमें अगर if genres are mixing, if time is mixing, or if unities are being violated, चलो ठीक है, it's fine. He was true to life. ऐसा उनका कहना था डॉक्टर जॉनसन का। he believed that punishment is essential to virtue. Human virtue is propelled by punishment, by the concept of punishment. दंड जो है वो अच्छाई के लिए ज़रूरी, अच्छाई के ज़िंदा रहने के लिए ज़रूरी है, ऐसा डॉक्टर जॉनसन का मानना था। और तब वो शेक्सपियर को कहते हैं कि आपने पोइटिक जस्टिस क्यों नहीं फॉलो किया, क्यों कॉर्डेलिया को आपने मर जाने दिया, यू शुड हैव सेव्ड कॉर्डेलिया। ऐसा मतलब वेरी लाइवली, वेरी ह्यूमन, इट्स वेरी ह्यूमन सेंटिमेंट दैट डॉक्टर जॉनसन हैज़ डिस्क्राइब्ड इन प्रीफेस टू शेक्सपियर। तो अपने समझने के लिए, for our analysis, for the understanding of the students, we can classify, हम preface को 7 parts में समझ सकते हैं। 7 parts we can understand the whole of this preface. The first part is, of course, Shakespeare was a true poet of human nature, human situations, human life. That is one part. The second part is shielding of mixing of genres. He believes that Shakespeare was right in mixing genres. Then thirdly, he has described the flair of Shakespeare, the style of Shakespeare, what makes Shakespeare Shakespeare. That he describes in the third part. All, you see, all nuances, all beauties of Shakespearean literature, that it is a world of its own, and it is a magical world. So that he described in the third part. And then in the fourth part he takes up the shortcomings of Shakespeare, जैसे मैंने आपको पहले ही बताया, two-sided, it's a two-sided picture. shortcomings, faults of Shakespeare. Then he comes in defense to the violation of unities. ठीक किया उन्होंने. He did the right thing by violating the unities when the situation so demanded. And then he, the sixth part, he says, history and Shakespeare. Understand, because Shakespeare did not create stories of his own. He took it from history. He took them from mythology. He took them from folklore. So understand, go read that part. Elizabethan history as well as the history of that character. संदर्भ को समझिए. Study history. Context is important. So this is the sixth part. And then the seventh part, editorial techniques. कि हमको संपादन करने में कौन कौन से विधियाँ अपनाना चाहिए. Which techniques to follow in editing, in general editing, in editing Shakespeare, in editing others also. So that इस तरह से करेंगे अगर हम, तो हम समझ पाएंगे कि प्रीफेस क्या है. And what is the importance of preface in the history of English criticism. It's a seminal piece. हर किसी को पढ़ना चाहिए. If you do not know Dr. Johnson, you certainly miss something of English literature. You cannot say that I am from English literature. That is that important. पूरा 18th century भी हम उठा के देखें तो एक सबसे डोमिनेटिंग फिगर डॉक्टर सैमुअल जॉनसन का है. और उनकी अपनी ज़िंदगी बहुत ही प्रेरणादायक है. मतलब खुद को कम नहीं मानना और कभी भी खुद को कम नहीं मानना और एफर्ट करना. वेरी he is exemplary as a critic, exemplary as a human being. Thank you so much.